publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas under duress from Paxton and all those starting to raid people to control the election, fraudulently, of course. Good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, and every nook and cranny receiving our 100,000 watt transmitters signal into those little boxes known as radios. Good morning to the entire world receiving our message via the magic of the internet, formerly known as ARPANET, created by whom? Created by you, created by your intellect, created by your tax dollars, created by everything we as a collective people of the United States and elsewhere have created, not the billionaires who control it. This morning, as I woke up at 4 this morning because I wanted to do my spinning before I got onto the air, and I'm watching the news and I'm watching them say, well, the tech stocks in America are under duress right now because Nvidia wasn't as great as it should be. The tech stocks in Russia, the tech stocks in China, the tech stocks in Taiwan, the tech stocks, and I started to think, wait a minute, they're making the point I've always been telling you. Capitalism has nothing to do with democracy. Capitalism has nothing to do with freedom. Free enterprise does. We're going to talk about that. I don't know if we'll get to it today, but my blood boiled as I'm saying, they have continued to snow our people of the United States into thinking that we have to maintain an economic system that solely takes and takes and takes and takes, that transfers all our monies from the lower end to the top end. But before I get into all of this, what am I talking about? We need to get to the studio with the geniuses, the guys who make it happen. One of the folks or two of the folks that are really doing what it takes. Buenos dias, mis hermanos favoritos. Good morning, my favorite brothers. How are you guys doing?
Oh, those miserable rats. I'll tell you. You know what? I use a lot of NVIDIA parts in my computers.
Yeah.
You can look at any computer I have built in the past 5 years, and it's NVIDIA display cards.
Yes.
If they're not built onto the board, then they're add-in cards. So my hobby is building computers and has been for the last 30 years. I started building those things in the mid-90s.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that they're a lot easier to put together today than they were before.
Yes.
It took days to make those things act properly if you wanted anything more than a mouse. And I always wanted multimedia on mine. So anyway, good morning, Egberto. It's another fine day here at the radio. The tin cans and string have held together, so we were able to bring you a broadcast not only over FM radio, which, by the way, I have a big FM radio. It's not a small box. Oh, yeah. It's a Sansui Quad 6500.
You're aging yourself. You're aging yourself, my brother.
And every time somebody comes into my office and looks at that stereo and goes, "Holy cow!" I said, "Yeah, you can blow this. You can blow this building down with this thing." So my going into my big radio and the internet also. We are streaming all over the world. And good morning, Perth, Australia. Why the heck not?
That. Why the heck not?
And Jack, you got a full page of wisdom over there, man. You've been thinking today.
I got inspired, I guess. I read Egberto's post this morning. So
okay,
how are you doing, Egberto?
I am doing fine. I'm always delighted to hear your word with the expectation that you always go ahead and change what the hell I'm going to say. So let's hear what you got to say, my brother.
Well, The world has lots of opinions. All right. Project 2025 is the death knell for American democracy. More tax breaks for the wealthy, higher taxes for the middle class means the middle class is subsidizing the wealthy almost directly. Citizens, are you going to sit there and put up with this? Or are you going to stand up and realize you have the power of the purse? Imagine citizen patriots going into the office at work and changing their withholdings to 0 and 9. Imagine citizen patriots canceling their insurance premiums, cable bills, and or not taking out loans for major purchases. If we quit paying the corporations and institutions that are enslaving us, we win. The people win. Are you willing to sacrifice your security to live with this tyranny?
Okay, well, I'm going to quit right now. I'm going to stop paying my bills, and then I'm going to end up in debtor's prison.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe that's Project 2025 is going to bring up is debtor's prison.
Well, probably so. I'm surprised they didn't put that in there already. Okay, your
That
credit
is,
card is too high, you go to jail for 90 days.
well, you know, I tell you, they entice you to spend, and then when you spend, you're in trouble. Anyway, Jack, I love that. I want to add to that, but you know who's in the house today? Today is
Yeah,
Thursday, which means it's
Neil,
Aquino's. It's Aquino's Day. So before I kind of comment on your commentary that's going to make me comment on that commentary, I want to bring brother Neil Aquino into the house. El señor Aquino, ¿cómo estás? How are you doing, my brother?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, studio. Good morning, and really briefly talking about the tech bros and the internet. I encourage the listeners go read about the arrest of Pavel Durov, the Telegram founder in France, and read about Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and their control over JD Vance, and what these tech bros want for you. And it's Project 2025 with a healthy dose of eugenics and awfulness. But it's something. But good morning world on that dystopian note. They're like James Bond villains brought to life.
Absolutely. So we got to take, folks, look, the Project 2025 is real. What a lot of our MAGA folks are doing is real. I think that's grammatically correct, is real. Look, today, Aquino is going to speak, Neil Aquino is going to speak about what Paxton did right here in Texas. And this is just the beginning. So I am going to lay the floor on to Brother Aquino, and I want you guys not only here in Texas to listen to this, those of you around the country, listen to it. Those of you around the world in democracies, this is what we're talking about. Thankfully, uh, in France, they bit the bullet and they prevented it from happening in the second round. I know you guys
Right.
dodged the bullet in France. Are we going to dodge the bullet here in America? I hope so. France did it even after we thought the right had gotten it, but we brought it back. Neil.
Right. Although Macron is resisting a left coalition-led prime ministership and parliamentary majority over there. He met with Jean-Marie Le Pen a few days ago, and we'll have to see what they get. But they did dodge a bullet.
Yeah.
Okay, there were those are my global updates for the day, and so we'll bring it back local today. Today's kind of a Texas story. Usually we're talking about Houston and Harris County, and as Egberto said, it has gotten national attention. The upshot is Ken Paxton used police to do some raids, and in some ways, you know the story already because it's Ken Paxton, so you know that it was wrongful, shameful, false pretenses, and maybe something to do with suppressing the vote, and all those things are true. To give it some context, there were raids, and these were focused in the kind of Uvalde area, dealing with figures also from San Antonio and Bexar County. And these people whom were raided by the police, including an 87-year-old woman whom, by all measures, seems to be just an active rank and file Democrat. These raids were focused on voter registration efforts by these people. And these people were engaged in registering to vote older Texans in a hotly contested area. So one of the people whom was raided, Cecilia Castellano, is the Democratic nominee for a Texas state House seat currently held by a Democrat. That Democrat is leaving office. And according to the Texas Tribune, at least, this is the most this is the number one Republican focus, this seat, to gain a Democratic seat in the upcoming election. This is target number one. So Ken Paxton has done raids and has raided this candidate in this hotly contested legislative seat.
Let me time out a second. I don't want to interrupt your trend of thought, but I want people to recognize what you just said.
Right.
And I want to make sure that I'm getting it right, because that's what I read as well. The actual candidate was raided and their cell phone taken away to spy on. The candidate's cell phone was taken by the state of Texas.
Right. So there are two big things in what I said. There are two big things. So the rank and file woman, 87, and they made her, they raided her. This was like, according to accounts, this was like a raid you see on TV. These, they gun-toting, overwhelming force, and they went through all her stuff. So this is a rank and file woman, just doing what, to her mind, they're criminalizing normal political activity. So you are a potential risk doing normal political activity. And then the importance, and it was also a gentleman who was part of the raids, who was a former Democratic Party chair in Bexar County, which is San Antonio. So to me, it was important, in an unfortunate way, beneficial, that two members of the higher political class got these violent raids too. So if you're a state representative, if you're an elected official listening, and I'm certain they listen each morning to this program, is you are not immune. You are not immune, because one of the themes that we've had of my Houston Democracy Project and that I talk about on social media is these electeds need to invest themselves fully in the fight. And because they're insulated by low turnout, they're insulated by special interest money, and I'm talking about Democrats here, they think, maybe they can weather the storm for 2 or 4 or 6 years. So the two headlines of what I've said so far, a headline is that they raided these people, and you're not immune. You're not immune. If you're an elected official, if you're a well-connected political person, and then also if you're doing just rank and file political activity, you're not immune either. So these raids were conducted, and the media keeps using the term, and there have been good media stories on this, but they keep using the term vote harvesting, which makes to me think like of organ harvesting. It's this insidious term. Vote. What are they doing? Vote harvesting. And so candidates from both political parties will interact with senior citizens, and the stories are never clear. And there's a reason the stories are not clear, because the laws are made to be nebulous, and the laws are made to be selectively enforced, and the laws are there to make you nervous about doing normal registering the vote activities. So both parties will go into a senior living facility, a bingo hall, a church, wherever there might be older folks potentially there, and they will help them. There's mail ballots. There's telling them you want to vote Republican. There's telling them you want to vote for you want to be certain to vote for so and so in this specific race. And these practices are, and so it's important to me. It's really important to remember that these older folks have agency, because the picture they want to paint is that there's these older folks in some whatever state of cognitive awareness, and these shifty operators paid by whatever nebulous force are are duping these people. But these are people who all their lives have voted Republican, all their lives have voted Democratic. Maybe there's a politician who's been on the ballot for 20 years. They've always voted for this person. They know what they're doing. They're not, it's not a Mr. Spock mind meld. They're not making these people do something that they don't want to do. But there was a line in a Texas Tribune article, and I've lost the line, but it was a professor from Texas Rio Grande University, a voting expert, and he said that it's really difficult. I'm paraphrasing, but just gently. It's difficult to know what's legal and what's not. It's difficult, and then this also sets up after the election the ability to overturn the pretense. Not that they need a pretense, and that's also important to remember. We keep saying we've got to win by a lot so they can't overturn it. No, we could still win by a lot, and they still might try to overturn it, because we're trying to win elections and they're trying to take power. So let me just summarize it with from my blog post on the Houston Democracy Project, a series of quick points. One, the one I already said, Democratic elected officials are not immune from Republican violence. Two, we're at a place where normal political volunteer efforts can be criminalized. And you have people who are scared to register voters. And some of the stories have talked about canvassing efforts and, people being followed or watched while canvassing. Three, the use of DPS police to conduct the raids should remind people that every additional police officer in Texas is another potential participant in Republican attacks on democracy, and also the mass roundups of migrants openly planned by the right. And so there are reasons people do want. I'm not here to tell you that you need more or fewer police, but you need to be cognizant of what these police have the capability to do. Look how easy it was for Ken Paxton to turn the police into someone raiding people for normal political activity. Four, Republicans are afraid of Democratic gains at the ballot box. Two polls, recent polls, including the Houston Hobby Government School poll here in town, have Colin Allred within 2 percentage points of Ted Cruz in the U.S. Senate race. Colin Allred, the Democratic nominee, a congressman from the Dallas area. Five, Republicans in Texas will not accept statewide defeats and other defeats as well, without resorting to every tactic possible to stop and overturn these defeats. Six, and this is a constant theme I have, and I've mentioned it here before, with violent raids taking place and Democratic victories increasingly possible across Texas, what excuse do Harris County Democrats have to not be involved in every way possible? So, Rodney Ellis, with your $5 million in the campaign bank, what's your GOTV plan? Mayor Turner, you like to tweet about everyone you meet, and it's somebody's birthday. You're in this safe seat. Where's your GOTV plan? Carol Alvarado, Senator, you have $1 million in your campaign bank. Mayor Whitmire, you're a terrible Democrat. You're a lousy Democrat, but you keep saying you're a Democrat, and you've endorsed Harris. Where are you? And all of them, remember, most of our state representatives, all of our state representatives actually in Harris County are in safe gerrymandered seats. Synfronia Thompson, John Rosenthal, Ann Johnson, Armando Wally, and some are active and some are not. And the line I just used lastly, Democrats are running to win elections. Republicans are looking to hold and take and hold power. So these raids are a big deal, and it shows you that no one's safe, shows you that there's nothing they won't do. And this was in the San Antonio Uvalde area. It was all focused on Latino. That's been another focus. These were all focused on Latino people, but there's no reason it couldn't be here in Harris County. There's no reason it couldn't be focused on Black voters. There's no reason it couldn't be focused on Asian voters. There's no reason it couldn't be focused on a white Democratic area, and it's really important we be aware of this and not take it, not accept it.
Look, that's great information, Neil Aquino. So, folks, we have to keep our democracy. We have to take our democracy. We can't allow it to be. We cannot cede it to criminals like Ken Paxton and
Right.
and what MAGA is attempting to do. They're trying to do what they do very well. People don't like their policies, so they suppress those who they know won't vote for their policies. Unfortunately, their policies hurt their own because their policies are really only for the top of the game. Anyway, welcome aboard Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain in the chat. We also have Eric Hayes from Atascocita, Kingwood, as well as Lizard Queen. I think Lizard Queen is in Houston proper, correct, Lizard Queen? I think Houston proper. Anyway, folks, let's continue here with the program. Telephone number 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738, extension 2 to get on air. Una vez más lo voy a repetir, 713-528-5738, extensión número 2 para hablar. Give us a call and let us hear what you have to say. The second subject of the day is about Project 2025, and this sort of builds upon what we heard from Brother Jack as he started the program. Of course, Brother Jack has a tendency of changing the direction of the program, just like every one of you on the outside who are calling in, because politics done right belongs to whom again? Let me think. It's your show. I may write the darn thing and put it on the newsletter, but if you call in and change a show or change a subject, baby, it's your program. Anyway, the second topic, Billy Allison Irwin is in the house. Good morning, Billy Allison Irwin. She's right here in the chat as well. Hey guys, look, Project 2025 is one of those stealth kind of things, right? When we do you harm and you complain, we want to be able to say, but we're doing what you voted for. So they put Project 2025 out there, all 900 and change pages out there, because they know that most of us don't read. Hell, I haven't read the entire Project 2025. I go to sites that read it and put it in a short form. I don't do it not because I don't want to, just don't have the time to read 920 pages when I'm doing 4 or 5 blogs a day and having to do research for those blogs. But they know if this is all I do and I don't read the entire 925 or 930 or however many pages it is, they know Americans aren't going to do it. So the idea is here is Project 2025. When it starts harming you or you don't like it and you start complaining to these politicians, they're going to say, but you voted for it. We told you we were going to do this. But you know what? They don't have to tell you they're going to do this. They've already started. They started with the Supreme Court, with the local district courts, with the regional courts. They did it already. And now they're starting to make use of what they did and extend it and move it on. We have Bard on line number 1. Come on in, Bard, and then I'll continue with Project 2025 afterwards. Bard, how are you doing, my dear brother? Come on in.
Doing well. Good morning, sir. I just wanted to ask you, you kind of cut me off yesterday. I wanted to ask you a question. Do you support the border wall?
If I support the border wall, I don't particularly. No, let me just put it this way. But I need to qualify my no. Okay? No, I don't support the border wall for one particular reason. The border wall, let's say we were to put a border wall from California till the bottom of Brownsville where the Mexican border ends, right? The funny thing about it is there are many more ways to get in the country than through the border wall. In a time when we have technology, there is no reason to invest money in a physical wall when what you're doing is you're blocking animals, water flow, and all these other things. It's an arcane, backward thinking method. Now, unfortunately, Kamala Harris, right, has been taking pictures as she's showing that she's going to be strong with the border, with showing herself with border walls as well. Let me qualify this a bit. Notice what I always say: you have to go where the people are. Between the 90 days that she has to get elected, the 90 days that she had to get elected, is she going to be able to educate folks as this towards the stupidity of the border wall? Or is she going to have to say, well, this is where people are. I am not going to fight it right now. As I become president, I'll educate the population and let them know there we have thousands of miles of shoreline. We have thousands of entry points that have nothing to do with that border in Mexico. So why invest billions of dollars there when we could have it elsewhere? Your response, Bart.
So you're going against your candidate Kamala. She wants the border wall, and
No,
you
I
don't.
am going. And let me just say, I think her wanting the border wall is simply the bad word would be saying disingenuous. The good word would be saying meeting the people where they are, because that's what people have been taught to believe was effective. So my answer again, answers have smart answers are generally nuanced, and the nuance is she has an election to win, and to win the election, you have to make people comfortable. Go ahead.
So wouldn't the border wall force immigrants to do it legally, right? They would have to come through a port of entry.
No, that is foolish. That doesn't say that at all. A border wall just says that the places where the border wall is, people aren't going to come in there. They'll come in elsewhere. Because again, we don't police over 5,000 miles. We don't police if hundreds of thousands. Well, if you look at our shoreline, if you look at our border with Canada, we don't police most of it, and most of those are entry points. Again, what I'm saying is we have some of the most, and I don't like to use the word, but it is apropos. We have some of the most stupid policies when it comes to immigration. If you think most people come through the border, you're dreaming. Most people come through Canada. Most people come through the shorelines. Most people come through the airlines. That's how most people get here that are here in an undocumented fashion. And most of the undocumented as well don't look, or I shouldn't say most, a lot of the undocumented folks don't look like those crossing the border. But you'll never know, because what we do is we don't have a true immigration policy. We have a race policy. Continue, my brother.
Well, I love you in this double talk. But have
Whoa,
you
whoa,
heard
whoa,
what
hold on. No, no, stop. Let's not lie to our audience. How did I double talk?
you talked around? How you're you're not for the wall, and
No, I'm not.
there's very few immigrants coming over the southern border, which is totally false.
That's not what I said. There are many other places that our undocumented come from, and most of these undocumented come from the Canadian border, the through the airlines, and if the aggregate of all the other forms on vacation visas, the aggregate of how all immigrants get here. In fact, I know several of my undocumented friends. They came here legally. They just stayed.
Have you heard of what's going on in Aurora, Colorado?
I'm sure you'll tell me.
No, you haven't heard about it.
No, no, I'm asking you to tell me, sir. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, there's a Venezuelan, high Venezuelan population.
Okay, I
I
guess we
wish someone
lost
would
you.
clarify. I wish the right would clarify with Venezuela, because we were. That's just been interesting to me, because the right has been over and over, Hugo Chavez and Maduro, and we were told, I think with some accuracy, that that's not where you want to live. So we welcome the Cubans because they're fleeing a tyrannical government. I don't have a good opinion of the Venezuelan government, but a lot of those folks have come here. Some of the border crossings mention those folks, and it used to be that the Republicans embraced Venezuelans because they were coming from Chavez and Maduro, but now we lump them in with with everything else. The Republican flip on Venezuela has been interesting to me because it seems similar to Cuba in some ways, but I guess it's more convenient to demonize them than to say that maybe they're leaving for a good reason.
Yeah, I mean, don't ask MAGA policy or Republican leadership policy to be consistent. You will never find a consistency there because it is not based on honesty. It is based on how do we best maintain power. Let's go ahead and get somebody new here in. Let's go ahead and go to Champ and then Greg. Come on in, Champ.
Good morning.
Good
I
morning,
just
sir.
have one thing to say.
Yes.
I just have one thing to say. Israel had a border wall. How much good did it do them?
You're such a smart person, Champ. I mean, like, Champ, it doesn't, if you want to be honest, Champ, it doesn't require a lot of thought to realize that walls and those things are the past. China's Great Wall. I mean, it is such a silly thing. The people that make money are the contractors who who give the politicians kickback to build these things that don't work. So you make a wall that the foundation goes about 6 to 10 feet deep, and you know what? You tunnel 12 feet and you come into the country if you want to go through that avenue. It makes no sense. But again, we don't push smartness. Champ, come on in. Let me continue with Greg after you're done. Anything else, Champ?
No, that's all. You have a great day.
You too, my brother. Thank you for having such a smart commentary. Let's go to Greg. Come on in, Greg.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, good. Yeah, the talk about immigration is really interesting. So one thing we have to do is we have to definitely clarify what that definition is. An immigrant is somebody from another country. So even our wonderful host here, who was born in another country and is now an American citizen, is still considered an immigrant. You're just a naturalized immigrant like my wife.
Yes.
Okay, and my wife, she came here. A lot of immigrants come here with visas, and because there's quite a bit of opportunity here, what happens is a lot of them want to stay over and make money and so forth like that. And my wife stayed over. She was an illegal, or let's say undocumented immigrant for a number of years before she met me. 19 years ago. We got married 17 years ago. And she became a legal citizen. When I met her, she was hardworking. She paid her taxes. She was a collector. She collected debts for some company and so forth like that. She did, kind of some of the hard jobs that other immigrants tend to do, but not physically hard. Another thing is, so many immigrants don't come. They definitely don't come to the southern wall. Like you said, they come airplanes different ways, and they come with visas and that and the other, and they overstay. And I don't know why we're afraid of immigrants anyways, because they're one of the best things for any country. I lived in Japan, and there's so many immigrants there because they're just not having children. There's a shortage of labor over there. And it's the same thing here. Immigrants are an incredibly positive effect on our country. And if you look at all the cities that have larger number of immigrants than cities without, they tend to have lower crime rates. So immigrants are less likely to commit crimes than American citizens. It's not that they don't, but American citizens commit crimes too. I'm sorry.
Greg, go ahead, Neil. Neil was going to say something.
Well, it's interesting because that you do see that statistic, and I believe it. That immigrants today are less likely to commit crimes. On my mom's side, we've overstayed for 400 years because my mom's side got here in the 1630s. I'm a bit of a blue blood on my mom's side. We got here really back in John Winthrop times, not long after the Mayflower, and I mean, without knowing, you can't exactly know the story, but we surely displaced Native American. Of course, we had displaced them with smallpox before we got here. And I remember reading a book. It was called New England Bound a few years ago. It made some news at the time. And it talked about how even relatively average New Englanders in 17th century Massachusetts kept slaves, one or two slaves. It was common. So it's interesting. I don't even know where this point goes, except to say that I reap the benefits of being here for 400 years. These folks, my relatives, my ancestors just showed up, spread disease, displaced people, um, quite potentially held slaves. And these were the Moors of the time. Um, and I've reaped those benefits, and here we are.
Neil, I mean, you never quite told me that, and you and I have been friends for a long,
Yeah.
long time. But you know what? It's so interesting. Greg, I'm gonna come back to you in a second. But what's
I'm
interesting?
actually a direct descendant of a Speaker of the House, Theodore Sedgwick. Was the third or fourth. He was the first or second United States senator from Massachusetts, and and he had a niece who was a prominent novelist. Was the
Now you're
Maria Sedgwick.
bragging. Now, hey! Now you're bragging about you being the
Yeah, no,
real.
I'm a blue blood, but it
Let me
just
get.
shows we just showed up, and
I and
you
took the
know
stuff. You just took
we
it.
just
You
showed up
know.
and took it, and I've been
Yeah.
reaping those benefits for 400 years.
Let me go to Greg again. See if Greg wants to add something before I move on. Hey, Greg, what else you got to say?
I think that's probably good, but yeah, my descendants go way back to the early 1600s too, and so
Yeah.
I'm guilty. My family's guilty also.
Sure.
We stayed up north, went to the Midwest.
I don't even want to look at it that way. What I want to say is the righteous indignation of all these people because of these people coming across the border. I find it very, I find it. I don't even know what the word is, but it's sad because the people who came here and that came here not just to get a piece of land, but to conquer, to invoke genocide on the population and all of that.
Sure.
They are so concerned about all these people that are just coming here to do what? Get a job, to work.
And
They're not trying.
we
Go
say
ahead.
these people, Trump. We always want to say that they're bringing over the years. They're bringing Ebola. They're bringing COVID and all that. Go back and read. One of the reasons that we were able to come to 17th century New England and Massachusetts is that we had transmitted smallpox just from fisher people, just from before even the Mayflower, occasional landings on the New England coast spread small. We had depopulated the area even before we got here. Um, and I don't even think about it in terms of guilt. I mean, I'm aware of the history. It's important to be aware of the
Yeah.
history, and but we need to be mindful of what the original American story
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, but Neil, it's not, and Neil and Greg alike, it's not about guilt.
Right. I agree
You
with that.
can't solve anything that way. It's about
Right.
knowing history. And when
No
you
way. That's
know
exactly what I'm saying.
history,
Yeah.
it makes you have something called grace with all
Yes.
human beings. Grace. Because
Right.
you can't solve how you were reared or where you came from. That's the reason I take the attitudes that I take. I'm not trying to blame anybody for anything. I'm saying let's be cognizant of what we need to do now, and past history should humble us to much.
That's
Greg, give me a
exactly my.
closer. Right.
Yeah.
Give me a closer, Greg.
Speaking, speaking of history, anyone of German descent might not have been here if oh gosh, right his name, famous person in history, Benjamin Franklin. So
Yeah.
Benjamin Franklin, in I can't remember the name of the letter he wrote, but in a letter that he wrote, he was complaining about how Germans were ruining the country back in 1720s, before the Revolution. And of course, 50 some years later, guess what? The children of those Germans that he was complaining about were fighting in the Revolution.
There you go.
But if anti-immigrant people would have had their right back in the 1720s, we wouldn't have many German descendants who are coming here to make a living and stuff like that.
Thank you very much, Greg. Great.
Way back.
Thank you, Greg. You've added to the show, my brother. Thank you so
Yeah.
kindly.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Augie. Augie, how you doing, my brother?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was thinking about what Bart said. That's what I called about the wall. Like somebody said, the Great Wall of China sure didn't stop those people from coming in, and the Berlin Wall sure didn't stop it. Berlin Wall, they had barbed wire, mines, machine guns, and German Shepherd dogs. That sure didn't stop them from leaving East Berlin to West Berlin. In fact, when the wall came down, the security guards jumped over the wall too. The machine guns and the West Berliners had to tell them, "Hey, well, you got to drop your machine guns, but come on over."
Yep.
And what history has shown us that people forget their own history and they ignore it, and
You
that's
know,
what Bart's.
Augie, it's so important for us to realize something, right? Most of this fear mongering with the immigrants and all of that, it's the biggest grift. What it is all the, all of Abbott's people made a lot of money. The transportation companies made a lot of money flying their people to these blue cities, but the real thing was making money for their friends. When it come to busing, it was making money for their friends. Let's realize that they have used your anger for an anger that's displaced. If you want to be angry, you shouldn't be angry at what's happening at the border with the immigrants, etc. You should be angry at your governor who's ripping you off and giving his friends money to bust these people out of the area and what Trump is going to want to do under Project 2025 to create encampments that you are going to pay for, that take that from working people, from people who are paying taxes that they will never get to take advantage of, but now you are going to pay taxes to lock them up in encampments. I mean, it's a grift. It's to
And
take even.
those encampments are the precursor to the mass migrant roundups they want to do. It's important, when they built that big camp down in Eagle Pass. We haven't heard
Yeah.
about it as much, but they intend to do mass migrant roundups, and that'll come with a big civil liberties cost. That it's a big deal.
It's amazing. It's a ripoff. But Augie, my fault. Every line is taken now, so we're gonna have to go through these lines rather quickly. So
Great.
Augie, anything else, my brother? Augie, is Augie still there? All right. Look like we dropped Augie. Let's go to Joni. Come on in, Joni.
Morning, Egberto.
Good
Just
morning,
a
my
couple of
dear.
quick points. There was a conversation at a library that my husband overheard and he told me about, which was interesting, where a man was railing about the immigration issue, and the librarian was staying quiet, and he finally pressed her on it, and she said, "Well, sir, they moved the border on them. It would be like us going today," because I think Mexico went all the way up to almost
Oh yeah.
Idaho at one point. So
Yes.
the border got moved on them. They were generationally here. It would be
Joni,
today
Joni, hold on a second. Joni, since you brought that up, everybody go research the Guadalupe Hidalgo Treaty. The Guadalupe Hidalgo Treaty, yes, the border were moved on them. And yes, as usual, we didn't follow the treaty we signed. Continue, please, Joni.
Yeah, so it'd be like today going in northern Mexico and saying, "Excuse me, but this is ours now. Fight them for it." And then now everybody that's generationally there for, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years, moved down. It's ridiculous when you look at the history. But then there's also, I vaguely recall Trump trying to get rid of or making people afraid to hire people who were immigrants when he first got in power. I'm not exactly sure about the time frame, but I remembered hearing that there was a shrimp shortage because they were trying to get my white brothers and sisters to come onto the shrimp boats and work, and it was grueling, it was stinky, it was hard, and they were screaming to go back to shore. So, and so we had a shortage because I couldn't find anybody to work it. And my last point is, let's just see each other as a family, like a human family. If we do that, then we're not afraid. If people around us, we start seeing more and more diversity in the people around us, they're just a part of my family. So that's just
Love you, girl. Love
Very
you,
good.
girl.
All right,
Love
take
you,
care.
girl. I love you, girl. You nailed
Bye.
it. You nailed it. You nailed it. Let's go to Brother Patrick. Come on in, Brother Patrick.
Try to make it quick. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here, sir.
Okay. For Bart, the wall, I was very disappointed in Kamala for coming out that way, but I think that she's trying to appease a very simple population, and there are very simple people amongst us. If they don't see something solid, a deterrent or something, they're not happy. And I'd like to ask him if he's getting something that he wanted, and he's come out saying that he wants a wall. Why isn't he just happy about it? But that's not what I'm really concerned about. For a year, you've been on in this time slot, and I've heard Brian say all sorts of things, and I think that you're finally getting to a point where you're handling Brian a little bit better. But one thing I'd like you to ask Brian is if he's taken a shower this morning, because our water system is a very successful socialized system, and without socialism, he would stink. And I can go on with a bunch of different socialist systems.
I know. Oh, you know, we're going to be talking about that going forward, Patrick. So you nailed it, my brother. But look, I got to get all these calls. So thank you so kindly, brother. All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Let's go to Jacob. Come on in, Jacob. Brother Jacob, you're on.
All right. One I want to say, like one of your guests was saying about the Germans, and your guest who said he's a blue blood and was a couple slaves with him. I want to ask because I don't look at white and black because you got Europe, you got the Germans, the Irish, French, etc. And like the border, the conquistadors from Spain, which are European, who brought Spanish. There wasn't no Mexicans like that. It wasn't like what you see today because you had the Native Americans and they had, they got together. And then you had, in Louisiana, you had the French. Everybody know about the Louisiana French purchase. You had the French. But from England, he said about they had slaves. And I want to know, since we are the only ones who got kidnapped and brought over here, it is, like Kamala said, it is a nation full of immigrants. I want to know, do he think that we deserve reparations for all the free labor built in America? That's what I want to know.
Well, I think he can answer that for himself, but I know what his answer is going to be. Go ahead, my brother.
I mean, how would you know? That man, he from England. His small family. He's talking about.
He's a brother of ours, man. Go ahead, answer it, Neil. Are you for reparations, Neil?
Am I for reparations? My thought about reparations has always been about the political impossibility of it. I have been for all sorts of things. Like I was very much in favor of that of when we were trying to help black farmers in the South. Joe Biden was doing that. Affirmative action programs. I have favored over and over programs that try to level the 400-year wrongs done. Of course, the first slaves were brought over, I think, in 1619. So in the terms of the reparations, I'm entirely open to the concept. We can't even, the court wouldn't even allow helping the black farmers with direct financial aid. If you could politically manage it, I'm open to hearing about it. And that I thought.
How about this? They have gave reparations out before. So why wouldn't we, who built the country for 400 years, what we don't get nothing for that? Oh no!
I don't disagree with any of it. I wish we lived in a very that's always what Martin Luther King would say. He would say, "I'm not going back to Africa. We built this country with our labor."
Okay, I gotta cut it. So look, I don't think you will find a progressive Jacob that isn't for reparation. A real progressive, that is. Reparations is something that is due, and you're absolutely right. The folks who were locked up in the things in Japan, the Japanese who were locked up. So yeah. Right. You're not finding an argument here, Jacob. But look, I got a lot of calls, so now I have to limit everybody to an hour. Thank you, Jacob. You have a great one. Let's go to Harry. Harry, 1 minute. I'm sorry to hold in that now, but I'm full. Come on
All
in,
right, I'll do
brother
this real
Harry.
fast. Good morning, Neil. Good morning,
Morning.
Howard. Good morning, Magic Jack, and good morning, Roberto. Well, what I was wanting to talk about is what they were talking about yesterday on NPR, and I did some reading up on it, is what they're trying to do in Georgia. Trump was boasting about it the other day, about those three people on the board that don't want
Yeah.
to certify the election if Kamala Harris should win. And I know the Democrats are doing what they can with the lawsuit because it's against the law. And, he's just trying to rig what he tried to do 4 years ago in Georgia with Brad Raffensperger. I'm looking for 11,780 votes. So they can't be allowed to get away with that. And I know they're talking, I read up on it, was talking about the Republican counties are most likely not to certify, and the Democratic counties will certify. And I just think it's wrong. That's just another way to suppress the vote.
Absolute. Harry, you nailed it, and you're at 60 seconds. I got to go. Thank you, Harry. You're absolutely right. Let's go to John Garcia, mi hermano. Háblame.
Good morning, Alberto. I just,
Buenos días.
Openly open the topic. Is what I observing on the both sides with the polarization is that maybe like the U.S. was not involved in what was the political controversies in the 2020s because you have like a very functioning democracy. So now it's like we're seeing an old movie of the extreme left going for socialism and the extreme right going for something that we call it in Spanish caudillismo. It's like the worship of the leader. And we have a lot of caudillos in South America in the 29th century and 20th century. And now the U.S. is going for the worship of the leader that is something obsolete. So both sides are like following obsolete ideas. And that's why is there like exacerbated, maybe artificial polarization.
Thank you very much, Juan. Senor Garcia, your statement is taken. I wish I could comment, but we're kind of running on time, and I got to go to the next call. Thank you, brother. Come on in, Brian. 1 minute.
Yeah. Thanks for taking my call. The left wing is a very forgetful group of people, such as Epstein and Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was impeached for lying to Congress. But what did he do to a 26-year-old intern? All right. I see pictures of Epstein with Trump from 1994, and they said that he's buddy-buddy with Epstein. And when Trump found out who he was, he dropped him. He wouldn't allow him on his property. But, again, you forget that what did Zuckerberg do? He was under pressure to censor information about COVID and Trump.
Thank you very much, Brian. Brian, 60 seconds. 60 seconds are up. I got to go, but thank you very much for your commentary. I'll answer on the back end. All right, let me just answer Brian at the back end real quickly because it's short memories. Bill Clinton, none of these guys attempted to overthrow the United States government. They didn't create a mob that killed police officers and others. When it comes to the misinformation, it is clear. It is so clear where Brian is getting his information. But I am very thankful that he remains listening to the program because at some point, the seeds that we plant, there will be a nugget that gets through there. Okay, we're coming close to the end of the program. Neil, give me a 1 minute closer as far as where we're at in the state of Texas with what's going on with having a corrupt attorney general.
Right. So, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, there were raids conducted on people engaged just in normal political activity, then also a very viable candidate for a state legislative seat where they're criminalizing normal political activity, voter registration. Don't let them scare you. That's my message. Don't let them push you out of public space. Don't let them scare you. They're corrupt as hell. They're going to do anything to keep power, and they also they want you afraid. Be encouraging to others, and I'm at HoustonDemocracyProject.com. And lastly, El Norte. Let me give a book recommendation. El Norte, The Epic and Forgotten Story of Hispanic North America by Kerry Gibson. I read that about a year ago. It's a great book, talks about a lot of it. El Norte by Kerry Gibson. If you want a history of the border, Hispanic North America, a lot of things we've talked about, that's a winner.
Thank you very much for that, my brother. Let me throw it to the studio.
I'm just sitting here wondering how low the state of Texas is going to go before it hits bottom. Just about the time you think the state of Texas politics has hit bottom, a new scandal comes up. So just how low is this thing going to go before we vote those rats out of office?
There's
When
no
is this-
bottom.
There is no bottom. There doesn't seem to be a bottom because, every time the lowest is reached, a new low happens. So people, you got to get out there. You got to vote. Vote these people out and check your voter registration because you may be one of the ones who can't vote now.
Yeah,
So
check
be
your
sure to-
voter registration. They're purging. Check your voter registration. That's
They
right.
better not purge mine off of there because I vote all the time. I vote on
Harris
everything.
Votes. HarrisVotes.org, folks, or HarrisVotes.com, I think, is where you can start looking for your voter registration.
Yeah.
So
Tell you
anyway,
what, hold on.
Jack,
Do it today.
Jack, you got something?
Yeah. He who sacrifices liberty for security deserves neither.
I love that. I love that. Well, we are into the program. Let me first tell you, folks, thank you for all those calls. Yes, as usual, we didn't cover not even half of what I wrote for us to cover today. So it can be found at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Always remember, this is your show. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. I love you all, my callers, my listeners, our group here, our team. Thank you so kindly. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out!
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. Special Counsel Jack Smith submitted a revised criminal conspiracy indictment of former